Hello, welcome back. And if you are new here, welcome. So today we're kind of going to be reacting to a video that Andrew Stonerock did today. He posted that today, and it's basically where he sits down, does a little interview with Jason Hawes, asks him a lot of questions that have been kind of circulating the community. I feel like I've seen some of these comments as well on my own channel. So I think this is going to shed a lot of light, you know what I mean, on a lot of different things that I think people have questions on, and that's fair. If you have questions, you want some clarity, especially if the public is being kind of asked to step in. I understand it. So I do think this interview is going to shed some light. So let's go ahead and watch and see what they both say.
There's confusion about the GoFundMe. I thought you had dropped it to 600,000. I believe the article said 600,000, but some people think that you dropped it to 700,000.
Yeah, honestly, that's just because I figured, and it's my own stupid math on it. But initially, somebody, was going to assist, and they're going to assist. Yeah, the numbers were screwed up. But I had told everybody that I was matching dollar for dollar up to that certain amount. So even when that person adds that amount, I'm still going to match it all. So, okay. But.
Okay, I do feel like that was one of the big questions being asked, because the original GoFundMe, wasn't it like 1.5 million, something like that, and then it got lowered to like 600, 700,000. So a lot of people were questioning why, especially after he had said he was going to match dollar for dollar. So let's just say if the GoFundMe hit 500K, he was going to match 500K of his own money. If it hit the 1 million, he would also match the 1 million. I think he said up to 1 million he would match. So people were kind of confused. Why would you lower it? Does that mean that you don't want to match the 1 million? But I think right here, he kind of clarified that where even with the, I guess, private or anonymous donor, he is still going to match it fully, regardless of the private donor putting in some money as well. So to me, that was one of the questions I had. So I'm glad that kind of got cleared up, because I know that was a big question kind of circulating.
Yeah, it's at 700,000. That's the number I ended up clicking down, man. I mean, there's nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is, this is, I believe, one of the ones from the YouTube community post. It says, why is this anonymous person not putting 4 $100,000 amounts into the GoFundMe?
Well, I think first off, there's multiple reasons. The minute they put it in there, like just talking with GoFundMe yesterday, they filled me in that they now have a system where they can put private pledges that doesn't have to be put into the actual GoFundMe. I'm on the road right now, so we haven't done that. But I mean, if the minute they donate the money if they give it to GoFundMe, it automatically loses like 3%, or 2.9 or whatever else. So why would they sit there and do that at an instant cost of 13 or whatever $1,000? If they could just make it a private pledge. And other people have said, well, because there's, they're not giving their name. They're doing this. They're going to have stakes. First off, they'll have no stake, no say in anything. This was a private pledge. And let's be honest. I mean, and you can see from just some of the posts I put out there, if somebody does that and they're public about it, people are going to come out of the woodwork. And be like, well, if you got $400,000 to donate to this, then how about giving me a loan? How about doing this? It happens, it. And just like the people who win the lottery and all stuff like that. So, and then they start getting called.
I will pause right there. I feel like one thing people were kind of worried about, from what I could tell, and I can kind of understand that viewpoint, where people were concerned that since it was like an anonymous person kind of trying to pledge the money, and I understand, you can't really put that big of an amount directly to GoFundMe. One thing that I think of is, would it kind of ring some alarm bells if it's like such a big amount? Would it even be allowed to? But I think that's why Andrew said that they were going to try, like, why not just put 100,000, another 100,000, another 100,000? But I think that if you go to the GoFundMe website, that's like the max number you can do. You can't necessarily put 200,000. It would have to be 100,000, then another 100,000. That's why they said, why not break it up and then just strictly donate and stay private if you don't want your name out there. But that kind of makes sense. If he knows this person, I think it's more of a question of if they are donating this big chunk of money, right? It's a big amount. If they're able to donate that much, are they going to have a say in what goes on? Are they going to have a say in how much maybe the prices should be, how much the tours will be? Will they have kind of like an opinion when it comes to those things, or are they just kind of, giving their money for a good cause, or, trying to preserve a historical landmark and house? I think that's kind of where I've seen some questions about, like, will they have a say in business ideas, business things like that? I think that's what I had seen.
Out, well, you're giving this money to this, and you can see some of it in the post. It's like, well, you're raising money to try to preserve this house, but there's all these homeless individuals or this or that. The money could be used for other things. Of course, somebody's going to want to be anonymous when it comes down to that. It's, okay. They don't want everybody.
Just to pause again, because I feel like a lot of people are saying, oh, well, he's so rich. Why does he need this? Why does he have to do the GoFundMe? Like, why is he, asking the community? But at the end of the day, if any type of GoFundMe that is out there, it's for donations. You are not required. You do not have to donate if you don't want to. Jason Hawes himself, from what I have seen, has mentioned multiple times, if you cannot afford to donate, that's fine. Just share the video, leave a comment, just kind of tell your buddies what's going on. He even said that before the GoFundMe kind of had a pause in between, they were even going to put him on national news just because it was it was a good cause behind it, right? Just trying to preserve something and make it affordable to the community. Not a lot of us can afford to go to certain places. So I think that's why he's just trying to make it as affordable as possible. And if he is able to kind of lower the cost that he has to put in of his own money, then it makes it more affordable for people that want to go. Even a while back, I had mentioned if they ever opened up, I'd be interested in going, checking it out for myself, maybe not for the haunted aspect, but, when it comes to like the history and things like that, I do think it's interesting. And it's been there since, like the 1700s. So I can understand that aspect. And then he had mentioned where he wanted to work with Kenny Biddle to kind of do some type of science building, right? I think that's pretty interesting. Haven't really seen that happen like in other places. So I think that's pretty cool, good ideas.
And their brother coming out, either attacking them for what they're donating to, being upset that they have that much money. I mean, we live in a world these days that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I get that.
I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, and I wouldn't think you'd even argue that point. I think you know exactly what I'm saying on that. If somebody realized that somebody realized you had $100 million sitting in your bank, as well as I do that people are going to come out of the woodwork and ask. And there's a lot of people out there who ask because they truly need help. And there's a lot of people out there who ask because they feel like you should automatically spread that around or do what they, follow what they want.
Yeah, I'm not against them remaining anonymous, to be honest with you. I value privacy. So yeah. Just the fact that they would like to remain private, it's completely okay with me. Another one is what happens if the cost of repairs on the property exceeds the amount raised?
Well, I already expect it to exceed any money that's raised through the GoFundMe and so forth. So, I mean, those costs are coming directly out of me. That'll be on me to make sure that that's all covered. I didn't go in this thinking that I wasn't going to have to spend a lot of money. I went in this for the fact that it was like, all right, well, Andrea made a plea and I had said I didn't want to be involved in this many times. If I was going to do it, let's see if we can do it as a community. Let's, bring everybody together with no promises of anything. Let's just try to do it. And if it didn't work, okay, well then no harm. Everybody gets refunds and everything else. So
yeah, see, that's another thing I saw where people were trying to say that he was kind of conning people out of their money or kind of like asking. But I think he's been very, very, at least in this situation, where he's been very clear and honest, where when it comes to the money, the GoFundMe, anyone that donates, if by some chance, maybe he doesn't get the Conjuring house, right? Someone else outbids, buys it for $10 million. He would just basically refund all the money. In other live streams, I've seen a lot of times where people will say, well, can't you just use, instead of refunding me the money, just give it to this person, or use it for this, or use it for yourself, But I think he has mentioned multiple times where he's just going to refund everyone, like absolutely everyone, because the whole point of the GoFundMe was specifically for the Conjuring House, And if he can't get the Conjuring House, there's no point in using this money for something else, because people donated the money for a certain cause, So at the end of the day, people will get the refund, everyone will get the refund if he does not get the Conjuring House.
Like, to pull everybody together, because, not just Andrea, Andrea made the plea, but after Andrea made the plea, you can imagine how many messages I was getting asking me to answer that plea. So, all right. And that's fine. I get it. I'll step up, I'll help out, but, let's see if we can make this a community effort.
Okay. That's fair. Another one is, will financial records related to the GoFundMe and property costs be made public or verified by third party for transparency? I think this one kind of goes back into the privacy that we just talked about. If anything, all the records are going to be in your name, I think. So there's different ways. So even talking with my attorney, there's different ways of handling this, whether LLC or, different types of trust scenarios, which and a trust is always another positive idea, because you got to remember it saves the property. Say if tomorrow I got sick or whatever, if this property was just in my name, or say in 20 years from now, I ended up on state Medicare or whatever. A lot of times the government at that point will seize your assets to pay for your medical care. Yeah. So we dealt with that issue with my father when he had MS and cancer. So, next thing you know, they're trying to go after the house. They're going after this. They're going after that. And a lot of people out there understand this. I mean, you can research it. So the fact of the matter is, if you put it in a trust, that protects it and still keep it. It'll remain open for the public, for education use, for all those factors. So it could never be demolished. It can't be sold to private developers. So there's two different types of trusts. So, that way it at least keeps the property safe in the, chance that something happens to me or whatever, but it still keeps it stable. And I think that's the most important thing. And it also, an LLC can give you some protection, but a trust can give you more protection if it comes down to somebody getting hurt on the property and then trying to file suit, trying to sue you or whatever else. And again, I'm going to have to rely on the legal term, not the legal term, but legal representation to decide what's within the best interest of that property. That's what it comes down to. It's because this isn't a money-making endeavor for me. I mean, if anything, at this point in my life, it's a cost factor for me. But if you're able to preserve the property is able to make enough to run itself, cover its costs, cover its upkeep, repairs. I think that's the most important thing.
He was considering putting it into like an LLC, but I do think it makes more sense to kind of let the legal team kind of look into all avenues, what would be best maybe 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now. If he were to acquire the Conjuring House, what would be the best, just to make sure that the property is safe, nothing happens, no one tries to come for it, things like that. I think that definitely, to me, that makes sense. Kind of letting the legal representation take care of that aspect, let them tell you what would be the better option and why, things like that, because that's their profession. But yeah, like if he were to get the Conjuring House, it's not just, okay, I bought the Conjuring House, let's start going at it with the business, let's open it up for people to start coming in. He would most likely have to do repairs. This place has not been taken care of in about a year at this point. So if no one has taken care of this place, you can assume that there's some type of repairs that need to be made, maybe outside, inside. What if the floor needs to be fully demolished and re-put in? No one really knows the state of the property or the house. So regardless, he will have to do some repairs, and we don't know how costly it can get,
I
and
also,
what, if we can cut the price, and it's crazy because I've seen a few people being like, you can't cut the prices down to make that property survive. Yeah, you can. It's not complicated. You can still do the tours as a major source of the revenue that come in to cover that property. You can still do, a couple overnight investigations at half or less of the cost that she used to charge. So, I mean, you could get that down to 70, $50, $60, $70 a person to do overnights if done right. It would be different if I needed a paycheck out of this property. And I think that's what people aren't, those people aren't understanding. Will I want to make my money back? Well, yeah, but that's why I'm trying to keep my costs down so I don't have to try to make that much money back. And if I was looking at it differently, then I would say the hell with it. I'll just go in, I'll get a buddy, whatever. We'll go in, we'll get into the auction, we'll fix it up, charge whatever and move forward from there. But it's not about that. I mean, it's not about that for me. I mean, I used to own a hotel in restaurant bar in New Hampshire, and it would cost you $80, $100 to rent a room. And then if you want to go investigate it, go investigate it. You weren't being charged extra. You weren't being, there weren't all these. And don't get me wrong, I understand people's business plans, and I understand your cost has to be trickled down and so forth. But that's not where I am in my life right now.
Yeah, I feel like that's interesting to say. Just the side note, the fact that he said he was charging like $60 to $80 to spend the night in his hotel, bar, restaurant, that is insane. I'm out in California, so a freaking motel will cost you like up to $200 a night. Plus, sometimes you got to put a deposit in. Oh my God, it is ridiculous out here. No, but I think I definitely understand that aspect. And at the end of the day, I think he is really, really trying to keep it much more affordable to a lot of people, because not a lot of us could spend hundreds or maybe thousands of dollars to go to a location we want to, because you're not only going to pay for the location, you're going to be paying for the travel expenses. Do you have to fly there? Do you have to drive out there? Do you have to spend the night somewhere else if maybe you can't specifically sleep there overnight, food, things like that. Like there's going to be other expenses, but completely understand, because when, he or she, who should not be named, was basically charging people up to, or I think it was more than $1,500. It's to me, that is quite a bit of coin. Anything over $1,000 is a little bit, is a lot, So I do think, and I appreciate the fact that he's trying to make it affordable so more people can come. And that's why he said, like, he is not paycheck to paycheck to where he needs to be making a profit out of this. And if he can keep those costs down, or like the repair costs down, or anything, it's much better for anyone else that wants to go there and visit, make it affordable for people. I definitely feel like a lot of people are interested, Yeah,
I think I kind of addressed that a little bit in the video, that you would have to make your money back on it. So it would be down to operating costs. Like as long as the building could cover its own cost, I think is where you
operating cost. And then also remember, no matter what property, you always want that property to turn somewhat of a profit, because there's always going to be repairs that are going to come up. So, the roof was replaced in 2020 something, these other issues, for all the well could be shot at some point. I mean, there's endless factors that come up. So you always want the property to be able to turn a profit for itself. So it has money in the bank. So if something happens, an emergency, they're not coming to me being like, Jay, we need a check for 50 grand. No, the property has its account. It has so it has its, expenses and everything else going through there. And it makes enough to keep itself open, cover its expenses, but also puts a little in the bank every month or whatever, which will be a financial stability for that property. And that's any property that you run, even owning rental properties. I owned rental properties in the past, and your rent isn't just covering your mortgage. Your rent is covering your mortgage and a little, because you never know if you're going to have to replace your hot water tank. You never know if something's going to happen and you're going to have water damage or flood damage or need somebody out there to rerun pipes. You always have to have a profit to a certain point to cover all those expenses. So
that is the one difference between renting like an apartment or having your own home. Like if you're renting, you just call maintenance and they'll come fix it for you regardless of what it is. They'll kind of take care of that. That's why you're just paying rent and you don't necessarily own it. But when you have your own home, your own house, if the septic tank breaks down, you're going to have to be the one putting out that like the money to be able to pay and like to fix it. If the boiler or there's a gas leak or something, you're going to be putting money out of your pocket to like fix these things. So yeah.
Does your profit have to be 30 grand a week? No, absolutely not. I mean, that's where there's a fine line there between it making, a couple hundred or even a grand a week extra to can put in this account to making, 20 grand, 30 grand a week.
That's right. Okay. So moving on, it says, can you clarify who currently holds the legal title of the Conjuring House? Like who currently owns it?
Right now, the past owner, Jacqueline, she still owns
it.
Yeah. And that won't change hands until the new lender whoever purchased the note has to go through the foreclosure process again.
Okay. Did the new lender, did they purchase from the old bank? So like when they bought the debt, did they also buy the mortgage itself?
Well, the debt is that would be the mortgage. So yeah. And I mean, it's not uncommon practice. Now, do we know who it is yet? No, but it's not uncommon practice for one lender to purchase a block of notes from another lender because you're purchasing that lender's debt. And, they do it for different purposes, whether they can tack on their extra fees, whether they can look at a property as, okay, well, when we finally foreclose on this and do this whole thing, we can add extra, we can sell it for a profit. I mean, there's endless reasons why lenders purchase other lenders, just like when it comes down to credit card companies.
Yep.
I mean, you might get, you get these collection agencies who purchase those debts or whatever from those credit card companies.
Okay, so that kind of makes more sense because I wasn't I feel a lot of us were like, okay, who bought the note? What's going on? But then I have started to hear, and then I'm glad Jason clarified where it's kind of normal for lenders to do this. Well, they'll buy like notes and things like that. They'll buy the debt essentially, and then just try and sell it for a profit. So,
and that's why I said, man, I'll answer whatever question because I wanted full transparency. It's like, I think a lot of people don't understand those little things that end up going on or how things actually work when it comes down to that stuff.
Yeah. So I know I had kind of reached out to you in the video to address whether or not your daughter was going to have any sort of ownership at all.
No shit. First off, let me just state right off, they have no ownership or stake in the property. Satori and Co, they weren't even aware that I had agreed to try to help Andrea. Yeah. She was pretty surprised when I dropped that video.
Yeah. I was reading some of your comments while you were in the comment section, putting that down. And like, I kind of thought that you had answered it, but some people still had questions about it.
Okay.
Now they're wondering if she will have some sort of management role.
Honestly, that hasn't even been discussed because I've only, it's mainly been, Jen, Corey, Aaron that I've discussed that with. And when it comes down to it, I have 6 kids. I mean, are people going, you're going to see my sons over there helping mow the lawns. You're going to, anything that's going to keep costs down to keep that property open, but I have not committed to anybody, and it's not because it's not just a me decision. Yeah, because that's a decision that has to be decided between pretty much everybody who's assisting there. I'm going to be relying heavily on Jen and Corey and Aaron because Corey and Jen own the property. Aaron ran the property. As well as other employees who've worked there as well as the neighbors, which I have a great relationship with, who are hoping that things go a certain way because their lives have been hell dealing with this stuff. So that's going to be I think that's going to be a group decision, and I have no preference one way or another because you know what, that was never part of my decision making on this. Right. This was a quick, not even a quick, but all right. You know what? I'll try to see what we can do here on that. And if we can save this property, because let's be honest, I mean, who knows how long Andrea has left?
Yeah.
This could be the final thing she's asking for. And you know what? I would have hated myself if I just ignored it,
Right.
or I just didn't do something to try to help, man.
And that's something that we kind of talked about, or I talked about with Andrew, Jordan, and Hart, like on the podcast. I don't know if it was on or off, but we had mentioned where, like, you know, we understand the controversy behind them. You know, would we be happy if they were back doing the same, you know, their method in the Conjuring house, just like they used to do? No, I don't think we would. But we can understand if they're visiting their dad, if they're helping around. Maybe, like he said, if one of his sons is mowing the lawn, what if Satori's there, or maybe cleaning some windows or something, right? Not necessarily having to do with the paranormal, but helping in other senses. I can understand that, and I feel like a lot of us would be fine with that. You know, genuinely, I can understand it if they're just there helping out, things like that. Like that's his daughter, you know what I mean? She's never just going to be out of the picture like that. Like, no. Do I agree with the method? No, but do I understand that aspect where we'll probably be seeing her and Cody over there? Yeah, absolutely. I understand that.
Yeah, GoFundMe. If people are anonymous on GoFundMe, there's, I mean, no reason to try and look them up. Is my thing on it. And
yeah, I'm not sure if they can or whatever. You know, my only concern about the anonymous part was those who donated money anonymous. But I guess GoFundMe still has their contact information, so that was that was a concern for me, because I was like, well, what about the ones who've been donating, you know, and staying anonymous? Are we going to be able to, if this doesn't work?
Refund,
and GoFundMe told me that they are able to make sure those people get all their money back as well. And another thing I've seen, let's just answer it, is some people have said, well, if this doesn't happen, can what I donated go to something else? No, it can't, because the one thing I promised from day one was this was for the Conjuring house. So I can never make that decision to say, well, it didn't work there, I'm going to put your money in. No, that's not up to me. Everybody gets their money back. And if they want to donate to something else, fine. But this is for the Conjuring house, and that was it. So if it doesn't happen, then you get the money back. And if you want to donate that somewhere else, then that's up to you.
See, and that's something I kept saying as well, I think on his live stream, because he's been going live mainly on Monday, sometimes on like an off day. But I had seen that comment a lot where, like, send my, you know, if there's ever a refund or maybe it doesn't work out, just send my money to Cody Satori, or send my money and use it for something else, use it for your investigations, you know, something. But I can understand that aspect where everyone's just going to get the refund and you can do as you please with the refund that you're getting if it does not go through. Because at the end of the day, people donated specifically for the Conjuring house to assist with this, with the auction, the bidding, things like that. So I get it. I get it. You know, if it doesn't work out, doesn't pan out the way that a lot of us are hoping, then it's understandable that everyone will just get refunded their money, you know? And you can put that money wherever you want to put it.
Absolutely fair. Yeah, I'm all for people wanted to be anonymous, or your $400,000 pledge. That's anonymous. I'm all for that staying anonymous.
And that person's not in the paranormal community. Just let me say that.
Yeah,
that person's not a paranormal individual, and it's a total different industry.
I've seen speculation from people on like who they think it is. Like they're throwing out Josh Gates, and
I mean, Josh would be considered in the paranormal community. So
yeah, and that's the thing. Like I'm a huge fan of Josh Gates. I talk about him a lot. Like on the channel, I talk about cryptids mostly. So Josh Gates comes up a lot in my script writing. Mm-hmm. So like I'm a huge fan of him. I'm like, if he was involved in this, his name would probably be on it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Josh is a good friend. But no, this has nothing to do with anybody who's involved in the paranormal industry. You know, I wish I could say.
Hey, man, they want to remain anonymous. We can
and say 100% they're not involved in the paranormal or the paranormal TV or paranormal online community stuff. So
yeah,
See, I mean, a lot of us are curious, right? Who is this anonymous person and why do they want to remain anonymous? But that's interesting. They are not even from the paranormal field. They are not from anything like that.
How do you address community concerns that the house's historical value could be overshadowed by ghost hunting or personal projects? That the house's
again,
is it okay?
I just want people to hear what you're asking me. So if you want to just say it again.
Okay. How do you address community concerns that the house's historical value could be overshadowed by ghost hunting or personal projects? What would you consider a plan focused purely on preservation?
Okay. Would I consider a plan focused solely on preservation? No, because the property wouldn't be able to maintain itself.
Yeah.
If it was just that. So there would just be no way for that property to survive. Now, do I want the paranormal to overshadow the historical aspects? No, but I want them to fuel each other. No matter what, we need to accept that that property is always going to have ties to the paranormal enthusiasts. Whether people believe it or not, whether they like it or not, it's always going to have those ties. So
Specifically because of like all the movies, everything like that. So whether you believe or you don't believe it's haunted, or you believe there's paranormal going on, it's going to be regardless known as the Conjuring House property from the movies, things like that. Same thing with like the Warren Occult Museum. It's, also from the movies, things like that. So it's gonna attract people that are from the paranormal, whether it is or it isn't. It has that kind of, I don't want to say reputation, but it kind of does, at least in my eyes.
We need to accept that. Everybody needs to accept that and embrace that, but embrace that in a way that it's not comical. It's not over the top. It's not, oh my God, there's a demon in the basement. Have it in a respectful way. And to be honest, this property notoriously has pulled believers, non-believers, skeptics, debunkers, historians to it. So utilize that for this property, for the sake of the property, because all of them coming together will be beneficial to this property, and it'll allow it to thrive and survive. And I think that's most important. And, when it comes to, there's so many opportunities that can be done with that property. The barn, there's claims that the barn is one of the oldest in the town. Now, I believe that's accurate, but I could be wrong in that.
Before he continues, because I'm going to forget my thought, but I think that's beautiful because that is true in the paranormal community. I feel like whether you are a skeptic, you are a debunker, whether you believe, don't believe, regardless, if you're just interested in the paranormal, I feel like we all are supposed to kind of mesh together, right? You shouldn't really be doing paranormal investigations and then just claiming everything is a demon or everything is like, paranormal. That you should try and at least see if there's like any logical reasoning before just throwing that it's a demon or a demon cut me or scratched me or tossed me or anything like that, right? But I do find that interesting just because he had mentioned, I think in a different live stream, but like I mentioned earlier, where he was talking about kind of doing something for the scientific field. To me, that's very interesting because then that kind of, opens more doors for even like more debunkers to go see what's going on, like all the scientific equipment, things like that. I think that alone will definitely bring a lot of people to kind of go over there and see what's going on. And I think Andrew, Jordan, Hart, and I had even mentioned where like if he did like a little merch shop, maybe put up like a little, not a shed, but like a little side house or something, open up a merch store there instead of having it inside the home. I feel like a lot of people would like that. Personally, me, anywhere I go, I love going to the merchandise, seeing what they have, buying something, a little souvenir, something, right? That's another way to try and make profit, right? And that's something that a lot of people do. Like if you go to Disneyland, if you go, like I used to go a lot, like camping a lot. So I've gone to Yosemite, Big Bear, Bass Lake, Sequoia, things like that. And one of the first things I would do is go to the merch store. Any little place I was going, I wanted to go to the merchandise and see what I could buy. But, there's definitely a lot of ideas to kind of, I guess, bring some type of income. That way the place is up and running. And then if anything does come up in the future, something needs to be repaired, that's going to be costly, it can be done,
But the barn had a fire happen and it's kind of been left. But that barn can be fixed up. It can be utilized for other things. It can be utilized for, I was talking to people like Kenny Biddle about this, who's a good friend of mine. It can be used for a place to show, scientific research and paranormal research and where they've crossed paths and where we are in this field and how you can do the next steps.
I like that.
Which I think is a great thing, because that could be, I think, like, I don't know the exact, but I think she used to charge $40 or whatever for a tour, and it was a tour of the house. Now I could be wrong on those numbers, but I mean, people can go for tours and they could go see this as well, which is just an not even an add-on for extra expense, but just an added part of that tour, which gives them more to work with. It's great seeing the property and seeing the history and seeing that stuff, but if you're there for the paranormal, it would be nice to also be able to do the same and have something more that shows you how, or at least helps guide you in how we can advance the field. With the barn also, you could have everything right down to a historical aspect of it. You can have the tools of those days, things like that really connect people, not just to the paranormal aspects, but the historical aspect of that property. Yeah. I mean, the possibilities are endless. You've got all that land out there, which is most of it's not cleared, and I wouldn't want to clear it. Let's just be clear there. So I wouldn't want to go tearing anything down or whatever. But there's fields. I mean, those fields can be used for community things, where you can have community style little fairs or whatever that can showcase, like I had said in one of the posts, it can showcase local artists or other artists. It can be used. There's just endless possibilities that will help generate revenue that can protect that property for periods of time. Because when you come to the winter months, I mean, you're going to slow down. Yeah. So it's like you have those months throughout the spring, summer, fall to generate that income to cover the expenses throughout the winter as well. So
yeah, there's no other questions. I think we covered them.
Please go check out the original video on Andrew Stonerock's channel. I'm going to link everything below. I'm going to link his channel down below. I'm going to link Jason's channel down below as well, just so you guys can check out the original sources as well. I definitely wanted to do this specific kind of reaction because I've seen these types of comments as well on my side, on my comment sections and things like that. So I do feel like these questions and answers definitely kind of clarified some things. Maybe people have more questions, things like that, but I do feel like Jason Hawes has been very transparent. He mentioned in Andrew Stonerock's video where he wanted this to be kind of unedited, that way it's all there. He did not know the questions beforehand, nothing like that, so he was answering as he was going and as he was being asked. But like I said, please go check out the original video on Andrew Stonerock's channel, and then go check out Jason Hawes as well. He has been making updates. He does do live streams as well. So if you ever have any questions, pop him in his chat. He is most of the time, if not all the time, very open to be answering or any of the questions that are out there. So please go show them support, I guess you can say. Yeah, but anyways, that is the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Please let me know your thoughts on this little interview. What do you guys think? Let me know.
I'm a journey away from home.